I think my juices flow all the time.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You know as much as I know.
Right now, we've been able to stuff the stuff.
The curse is broken. NC State fans, finally. Finally.
Hey, happy Thanksgiving.
I mean, that's a triple play.
The Wolfpack ain't for soft. It ain't for soft people.
Welcome back to another edition of Law of the Wolf. I'm your host, Joe Giglio, and it's really a shame that there's nothing to talk about with NC State this week. Nothing happened in that loss to Louisville last Friday. No, nothing happened Monday when Dave Doeren had his Zoom call, and he didn't make any big decisions. And Saturday, oh, come on, it's Marshall. Not even a league game, not even an ACC team. What's there to talk about, Giglio? Well, let me tell you. Everything, because this is the most important game of the season for NC State. And yes, I understand. I told you that Virginia just 2 weeks ago was a must-win game. Thankfully, NC State did win that game. Now, it took a little bit of a penalty miracle for that to happen, but NC State did win the football game. So here they are at 3-2. They have 7 games left. And as you know by now, on Monday, Dave Doeren said that MJ Morris, their sophomore quarterback, will be the starter, and Brennan Armstrong, the grad transfer from Virginia, will be going to the bench. Let me tell you, this is a move that Dave Doeren had to make, and this is why. There's 7 games left. They now need to win 3 of those 7 games. The clearest path to getting to a bowl game this year is to win on Saturday against a talented and dangerous Marshall team, to go to Duke on the 14th, and if you catch the right break, Riley Leonard will still be out with a ankle injury, their quarterback. Maybe you find a way to beat Duke in what the last time they saw them during the pandemic was just a bitter back and forth physical game. I would expect nothing less for that game in Durham. And then in November to be able to go to Virginia Tech and beat the Hokies. Those are the 3 most winnable games left on their schedule. It's going to take a world of improvement, though, to even win this game on Saturday. And I think that's why Dave Doeren made the decision that he did. The only way to get any kind of spark, the only way to get any kind of confidence and momentum going into the rest of the ACC schedule is to figure some things out this Saturday at home, where we've already seen MJ Morris be comfortable at Carter Finley Stadium. We've already seen him have success at Carter Finley Stadium. So that's number one. If you think MJ has a chance to help you and spark you for the rest of the year, you do it now. You don't wait until Armstrong either struggles in the first quarter or the first half or against Marshall at all, and then you have to throw him out there against Duke. That's not the way you play this. You play this by getting MJ back out there, and you play this by telling the team and the players who've seen him in practice, hey, help is on the way. You're also telling the defense, hey, keep playing like you did against Louisville. Peyton Wilson was spectacular. He was everywhere. I mean, he poured out every single thing that he had in that game. If you get 11 guys on defense playing like Peyton Wilson did and 11 guys on offense playing like Peyton Wilson did, you're not going to lose many football games. So hats off to Peyton Wilson. Certainly a bright spot in NC State's 13-10 loss to Louisville. But that's not what anybody's talking about. And I don't blame them. I wrote for SaturdayRoad.com. If you haven't been there, go check it out. My old boss at the News and Observer, Chris Wright, is down at Saturday Road. Brett Freelander writes for Saturday Road. And once a week, I write about the ACC. And I wrote on Sunday before Dave made the decision. I said, he's now faces this decision. And I use the word spark. You're going to try to get a spark from MJ Morris for this offense. But I don't think Brennan Armstrong, as Dave Doeren pointed out in his Zoom call, is solely to blame for NC State's problems. Let's start with the obvious. They're missing 40% of their offensive line that they expected to go into the year with. That includes Dawson Jamarillo, who was a transfer from Oregon. He was going to play one of the tackle spots. That also includes center Dylan McMahon. McMahon got injured in the VMI game of all games and has now missed the past 2 games. There is some hope that McMahon will be able to play on Saturday against Marshall. That would be a huge boost to NC State's offense. And here's why I say, and I would support what Dave Doeren said in terms of you can't blame Brennan Armstrong for everything. We're going to get into the problems that Brennan Armstrong had because I'm telling you, I have the stat of all stats for you that even Dave Doeren is going to save this and clip it and show it to his team because he in essence already has done that. But here's a stat for you. NC State's rushing yardage is not by Brennan Armstrong in their 4 games against 1A opponents. Okay. These are running backs and other players. 80 attempts, 274 yards. 80 attempts, 274 yards in those 4 games. That's 3.4 yards per carry. That's 68.5 yards per game. Those are the rushing stats by everyone not named Brennan Armstrong. Obviously, that's not good. That's not good enough to win football games. If you're going to run that poorly, then you need it to be balanced out on the other side with an incredible passing game. Obviously, as we covered in last week's episode, NC State's receivers and tight ends and backs are not in a position to really carry the offense, which gives us the question, well, who should be carrying the offense? Well, let's think of it this way. Watching that game on Friday, I thought Brennan Armstrong, who really was the reason they won against UConn, by the way, and that those key pickups on 3rd and 4th downs as a runner was important. So let's not blame anything, even in this 3-2, even the Louisville game, on Brennan Armstrong. Here's what I will say that I thought happened with Brennan Armstrong. He came into a situation as a 6th-year guy, as a graduate transfer, didn't know any of the players, did know the offensive coordinator, Robert Anai, who he had worked with at Virginia. And I think there can be some times where you're viewed as the teacher's pet, right? We saw a little bit of this with Brian Finley and Eli Drinkwitz back in 2016 when Finley first got here and Jalen McClellan was entrenched. He was who everyone thought was going to be the starter for the Wolfpack that season. So I think you have a little bit of like, okay, well, who is this Armstrong guy? Not in a bad way. Hey, you're out there sweating and practicing and going through workouts, and you know what MJ Morris looks like. You know what he looks like from the Wake Forest win last year, which was NC State's best performance of the season. So you've seen MJ Morris's ceiling. So when you bring a guy in, you expect, okay, well, he has to be this much better than the guy we already have. And I think for Brennan, what happened was he tried to do too much because he tried to do everything. And he's not good enough to do too much. He's good enough to do his job. And we saw that at Virginia 2 years ago. But we also saw the flip side of that last year at Virginia where he struggled. And it was a very similar situation where the offensive line wasn't very good. And he tried to do everything. As good as some of the players that NC State have had, as good as, say, Lamar Jackson, who we've seen run roughshod over the ACC, or, Cam Newton at Auburn the year they won the national title, or even some of the accomplishments Cam had with the Panthers. Not one guy, even though we love to give the quarterback all of the credit, or in this case, all the blame, can't win football games. There needs to be help. But I think the problem for Brennan was he was trying to do too much. And ultimately in the game against Louisville, I think you saw what really kind of pushed Dave Doeren over the edge. Before we get into a little bit more about Finley and Jalen McClellan, because I do think there are some parallels from that 2016 season. Everything went every year, every time on our podcast that we talk about college football, it's brought to you by Wings Over, Ryan Malley's crew. They're in Raleigh, Wings Over Greenville, and Wings Over Chapel Hill. The one in Raleigh is right there at NC State, across from University Towers. He has free parking right behind there on Hillsborough Street. That's a huge bonus. Go order online, wingsover.com. Okay. Go pick up your food, get the waffle fries, get the sweet chili wings. I'm telling you, the sweet chili wings are the bomb. Okay. He's also open for lunch now. So if your office is out there and you're trying to be the hero of your office, I'm telling you, go order 50 wings, bring them in. Everybody loves wings. Everybody. All right. So Wings Over Raleigh, wingsover.com. Go check them out. All of our football coverage this year brought to you by Wings Over Raleigh. Let's talk a little bit more now about the 2016 parallels that I see. I think Jalen McClellan was a guy who was in the program, who his teammates knew, who his teammates worked out with in the offseason, who his teammates kind of expected to be their quarterback. That was under Matt Canada. You remember Matt Canada, though, they got fired after the 2015 season. So the 2016 team, Eli Drinkwitz comes in from Boise State. And with Eli Drinkwitz, who was an offensive coordinator at Boise State at the time, comes his quarterback, Ryan Finley. I think the key difference between Finley and Armstrong was Finley had success immediately. And then I think, even though the players were probably a little bit apprehensive about, again, who is this guy coming with his coach when he hasn't been here, the same way that the guy who we know and who was recruited with us and is sweated in the offseason with us, who does he think he is coming in here? I think one thing that really helped Ryan was he was efficient and they won games early in that 2016 season. And also, you got to remember, Jalen still helped. I mean, Jalen was key in that win in the rain over Notre Dame in 2016. Key. His ability to run the football from the quarterback position. They don't beat Notre Dame without Jalen McClendon. He actually got a game ball for that game. But here's where I think the parallels are going to take us now back to Brennan Armstrong. You'll remember in that 2016 season, they were pumped about Jalen McClendon coming in and helping and being a guy who could run the football, pick up some short yardage situations. Well, they get to Syracuse that year, and McClendon threw 2 interceptions, including one in the red zone. And we basically did not see Jalen McClendon again. I mean, yes, he was on the team, but ultimately ended up transferring to Baylor because Dave Doeren cannot handle turnovers. He cannot handle mistakes when teams turn the ball over. And that is the real reason that this change is happening. And I'm going to show you those stats right after we talk about some important things here to us. Let me see if I can help everyone in the home buying, selling process all at once, or even in the refinancing process all at once in this one little break. How's that sound? First off, you don't know how you can improve either your current mortgage or if you're going to go out and buy something, what you can afford without checking in with Josh Goodson, RTP Mortgage. Josh, big State fan, even though he's a Carolina grad, he's a big State fan. Involved in their collective, does great work for NC State and supporting the football team. He's at RTP Mortgage. So give him a call, 252-361-1415. That's actually Josh's real number. Josh and I are friends. Full transparency. That is the number I have in my phone for Josh Goodson, 252-361-1415. Give him a call and see, hey, Josh, I'm interested in buying a house. I want to know the loan that I can afford and the house that I can afford. Or maybe you already have a loan and you're trying to figure out, hey, man, this market right now downright stinks. It stinks. But maybe you have equity in your house. Maybe you got to figure out a way to refinance. Well, you don't know what you don't know. So check out Josh Goodson at rtpmortgage.com. That's rtpmortgage.com, or give him a call, 252-361-1415, and he can help you with all of your loan needs. And this is where I tell you his NMLS number is 156-9995. Now, once you are equipped with the knowledge that you are going to want to go out and buy a house, this is where my friends Barry Woodard, Hometown Realty, come into play. Do you think you get 6 locations without knowing your business? Do you think you have more than 250 agents without knowing your business? Of course not. Barry Woodard, Hometown Realty. Go to myhtr.com. That's myhtr.com. It is so simple. There's going to be a toggle right in the middle of the screen, buy or sell. And also, one of my favorite features, the mortgage calculator. Use that mortgage calculator with the information you just got from Josh at RTP Mortgage, because Barry Woodard and his crew, they're going to hook you up. It's myhtr.com. And then once you close on that house, you're going to need some help. You're going to need Josh Whitaker, Joe Hamer, Whitaker and Hamer, attorneys at law. They've got all the locations. They've got more than 20 years experience. They've got the world's greatest URL, wh.lawyer. Had a minor traffic incident myself today, and I had to text my guy, Josh, say, hey, man, I need the help. I'm going directly to wh.lawyer right now to help me out with my current traffic issues. So big shouts to Josh. Josh, big State fan. As I like to tell you guys, there are not a lot of State lawyers out there. Not a lot of lawyers. Carolina's got theirs. Duke's got theirs. Wake's got theirs. So when you get a guy like Josh Whitaker, go support his business. Again, it's wh.lawyer. All right, so let's talk a little bit about how I see the parallels 2016 for NC State's current quarterback situation. When you have the turnovers, that's where you lose Dave Doeren. And I mentioned that Jalen McClendon threw 2 in the win over Syracuse that year. That was a win. That was a game they actually got out of there. But all season that year, Ryan Finley only threw 6 interceptions. Ryan Finley valued the football. And I think ultimately that's what made up Dave Doeren's mind, that while McClendon can be helpful in the run game, Finley takes care of the ball and gives the team the best chance possible to win the football game. Brennan Armstrong threw 2 interceptions against Louisville, and he had to fumble. So there's 3 turnovers. And you might be saying, well, okay, the defense forced 3 turnovers. All right. Here comes Dave Doeren's favorite stat. He has mentioned this before. I'm not sure if he has mentioned it this year yet or not, but I'm going to show you why it's so important to him to take care of the football. Look right here if you're watching on the YouTubes. By the way, hit that subscribe, drop a comment. Appreciate all the comments. And if you're listening on Apple, Spotify, the Googles, you're downloading, you're following, you're rating, you're doing all of the good things. 5 stars only. Positive vibes only. I'm not sure the camera's getting that one, but that's us. So let's look at their record in all games, what you see here on the YouTubes. So when they have a plus turnover margin, these are all games under Dave Doeren. When they have a plus turnover margin, they're 43-10. 43-10. That sounds pretty good. Including a 3-0 the 3-0 mark this year when they have the turnover margin. Even in his worst years, 2013 when they went 3-9, they were 2-2 when they managed to get to that plus margin. In 2019 when they were 4-8, they managed to go 2-2 when they got to the plus margin. Then you look at when they have a minus margin, 10-32. Obviously not great. Not great, Bob. Then when they're even, this one's interesting to me too. When they can get to even, they're 22-14. 22-14, for a guy who doesn't have a winning record in ACC play, that's a pretty good percentage of time when you're just even in the turnover margin. And you're saying, well, Joe, these aren't ACC games. As I had a chart earlier this week for Saturday.com, I said, Dave Doeren struggles in October. And I wasn't like saying it like, oh man, what a startling statistic this is. I mean, obviously you're going to have a lot of league play. And again, if you have a losing record in league play, which Dave does, 39-45, in his 11th year now, then yeah, you're probably going to struggle in October. It wasn't meant as some sort of smoking gun revelation. But let me show you now, when we look at the turnover margin, and Dave has mentioned this in years past, this is one of his favorite stats. When they take care of the football, they usually win their football games in ACC play. When they do not, they almost never win. Let's look at these numbers from ACC games. And if you look on the left in green, that's their record in ACC games for that year. That first column there is that when they are a plus in turnover play, plus in turnover margin in ACC games. Dave's record is 20-8. 20-8, including an 8-1 mark since the restart there of the pandemic. 20-8, and they've won 8 of their last 9 when they have the turnover plus margin. When they're minus, and this is the most damning one of all, in ACC games, when they are a minus in turnover margin in ACC games, they are 3-29. 3-29. The only teams to win football games when they were in a minus margin was 2018, 2019, and 2020. I mean, I don't know what else he would say to his football team other than when we don't beat ourselves, we give ourselves a chance to win the football game. See the 20-8. 3-29 when we turn the ball over more than the opponent. Then this is the most interesting one too. 16-8 when it's even. Now the game on Friday was even. 3 turnovers for, 3 turnovers against. 16-8 when it's even. Again, you're talking about a guy with a 39-45 ACC record. He has a losing record in ACC play, but 16-8 when it's even, and 20-8 when they have the turnover advantage. So this is the reason that Brennan Armstrong is going to the bench. This is the number one reason. He broke Dave's number one rule. You have to take care of the football. You can't beat yourself. And that's why you're seeing MJ Morris in a pivotal spot now against the Marshall team, as I mentioned, that has already beaten Virginia Tech this year. So this is not going to be a walkover. A Marshall program that went to Notre Dame last year on the road, beat the Fighting Irish. So they're not going to be intimidated in this game. They're not going to come in here scared of anybody. A 2:00 start might be a little toasty, but after last week's night game, after the and honestly, if Dave hadn't announced this quarterback switch, I'm worried where the crowd's vibes would be for this game. So I think that helps. I think having MJ out there from the jump is going to help as well. So I think this is a smart move for Dave Doeren and for NC State. Do I think it's a cure-all, though? I don't. And that's where the line play has to get better. That is the number one thing that has to get better. And hopefully the return of Dylan McMahon at center can help solve those problems. And to me, if you can start blocking, again, 3.4 yards per carry for people not named Brennan Armstrong, 68.5 yards per game for players not named Brennan Armstrong, you got to be able to run block, certainly run block better than that. Gets to my thought, though, of what they could do with Brennan Armstrong. They might not, but they still might, because as I said, I do think there are some parallels to the 2016 team. That 2016 team got a boost from Jalen McClendon as a runner. Well, who's to say you can't play Brennan Armstrong with MJ Morris? Who's to say you can't play Brennan Armstrong as a running back? When you go back and you look at that Louisville game, and again, I think Brennan's problems were he was trying to do too much, right? But he's still an effective runner. Now, you look at the very first play of that football game, and if you think of it, clear-eyed, and I've been critical of Robert and I, but if you think about it, you want to start the football game with what you think is your best play, right? Well, they started the Louisville game with a designed quarterback draw where the running back blocks for Armstrong. Well, if you think he's your best option, if you think he's the best, most efficient way to pick up yardage as a runner, why not use him as a running back? I've had crazier ideas. And remember, again, with some 2016 parallels, when Dave wasn't happy with Jalen McClendon, he put Matt Days as the Wildcat quarterback. So I think there are ways to make this work. I do think it was the right move to go to MJ, but you got to remember, you can only do this once. There's no more magic bullets out there. So once you make this move, it's got to work. I think Brennan, the 6th-year guy, is old enough that maybe you put him in a position, who knows what they do this week, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him in running situations. Because remember, that's how MJ got hurt last year. MJ's not the biggest dude in the history of the world. Okay. And I think one of the things MJ struggled with last year was he wanted to take off at the drop of the hat. He's probably coached that way too, to be perfectly honest with you. We saw this as when Russell Wilson was a redshirt freshman. Hey man, make one read, make two reads. And if it ain't there, particularly if the team's playing man against you, remember the Miami game that year, he took off. He was able to burn Miami because they played a lot of man. It'll be interesting to see how MJ has developed, because I do think there was a lot of potential there. And there's a reason why the students on Friday night in the first quarter were chanting for MJ Morris. I think there's a reason you saw the viral social media post of the missing poster of MJ Morris on campus that was posted on Sunday. So I think there is potential there, and I do think spark is the right word. But I also think that chart, which is why I've left it up there, look at it again. 20-8 when they're plus in turnover margin, 3-29. Like, try to erase that number from your brain. You can't. 3-29 when they are a minus in turnover margin. So Brennan Armstrong broke the first rule of Dave Doeren football by turning the ball over 3 times in the loss to Louisville. And now I look at it this way: those 7 games, like I said, you try to get this one against Marshall on Saturday. You go to Duke on the 14th. That game in 2020, that was the game where Devin Leary got injured, remember? And it was a cheap shot by Duke. There was nobody in the stands that day, and it was during the pandemic. And I remember the two teams who hadn't played in 7 years were jawing at each other. There was a lot of talking, just shit talking back and forth, and a lot of hard hitting. I expect from what we've and State won that game 31-20. That was back in Carter Finley. I expect this game against Duke to really be another one of those. And I honestly, one of those bare knuckle fights. I think State's going to try to play that way, just as they did against Louisville, because it's kind of a shame. Louisville ends up winning that game on a 53-yard field goal. It's not like Louisville was great shakes in that game. I did not leave with any kind of confidence that Louisville was some sort of world beater, but they found a way to win the football game, in part because of those turnovers by Brennan Armstrong, in part because of the issues up front that NC State had. So before I let you guys get out of here, I'm going to take my chart down because I have 3 more ads for you. I don't know if you've seen the swag from Home Field Apparel, and I just want you to go to homefieldapparel.com because they have the best new NC State stuff. It's the best swag I've seen. And here is the really good news for you. If you use the code OG23, you will get 15% off your first order from Home Field Apparel. That's homefieldapparel.com. You can also go download the app. Once you make that first order too, by the way, you're going to get a bunch of great discounts, great partnership that we have from Home Field Apparel. Check them out again and use that code OG23. I mentioned the breeze through that my man Adam has a great deal coming up with the Hurricanes. I'm not going to spoil it. I'm just going to tell you I'm really happy for him and what they've got going on. But breeze through, this is the lifetime tumbler refills. It's $20. Think about how many times I got a drink today at a barbecue place downtown. It was $4. It was $4 for one drink. This is 20. You'll have it the rest of your life, literally. Go in, get those drinks, get the dark roast coffee, my personal favorite. So check that out right there. Edwards Mill, Trinity, the breeze through. And again, Adam's got some great stuff coming up with the Hurricanes. I won't spoil it. I will say, though, we will be out at the breeze through, Ovius and Giglio, for opening night of the Carolina Hurricanes. Looking forward to doing another show from the Beer Cave at breeze through. And finally, let's get out of here with a shout out to the OG, my man, Hayes Lancaster, Mosquito Authority, Pest Authority. All right. Get rid of the bugs in the house. Get rid of the bugs outside the house. You don't need them anymore. You don't want them there. You don't want the mice in your attic either. These are all things that I've called Hayes for. If you go to bugsbite.com and punch in your zip code, you're going to see all kinds of great offers from Hayes, because just as he is an OG to me, he's an OG to everyone. Does not believe in contracts. He stands by their work. So Mosquito Authority, Pest Authority, there's no contracts, but you can get some great deals, some great coupons if you go to bugsbite.com. And all right, let's get out of here with a prediction for this game. My predictions the last 2 weeks have not been going well. So let's see if I can redeem myself with a pick this week against Marshall. The Thundering Herd, I'm telling you, this is such a dangerous game. And I feel like if Brendan started this game, honestly, and I don't like singling him out in this particular way, but I feel like Marshall probably wins the game. I do think this gambit will work, though, for Dave Doeren in this game. Marshall 4-0 on the year. They have wins over East Carolina, Virginia Tech, and Old Dominion. They've put up points in all 3 of those games. They have not seen a defense like NC State's, though, yet. So let's go with let's go for a tried and true here. Let's go 24-17. 24-17. Wolfpack wins Saturday, Carter Finley Stadium. As always, leave your own predictions in the comments below. Appreciate you guys for checking us out on YouTube. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. And at Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcasts, please check out Law of the Wolf. And of course, Ovius and Giglio. See you guys at Carter Finley Stadium. Looking forward to seeing if Dave Doeren's trick works with the quarterback change on Saturday against Marshall.
The Wolfpack ain't for soft. It ain't for soft people.